Hello, thanks for being here. My name's Mark Morse. Today I'm going to do something a little crazy, a little out of the norm for me, a little intimidating for me, to be honest. I want to give a review of Sean Lennon's album Asterisms. The reason this is difficult for me is because I feel like I'm out of my league. This is not the type of music I talk about or even really listen to. So this is something new for me. I first became aware of this record through, I think it was Larry Graves' YouTube channel, Canadian Stud Muffin, and then I heard Norman Masloff talk about this album briefly. It was just enough to pique my interest and order the album and listen to it. I have to confess that when it comes to music, I am what you would probably call lowbrow. I like mostly pop and rock kind of stuff. I like to say that my scale goes from the Beatles to Velvet Underground with John Cale. That's kind of where I like to play around. And things beyond that measure, I'm a little intimidated by. This is intimidating to me, just because it is obviously very serious music. But the reason I wanted to take it on is because as I become more familiar with this vinyl community, I'm finding more and more people talking about jazz fusion, and it has piqued my interest. I've started listening to some people that I just really respect musically, just love jazz, and for some reason, it's not something I've really gotten into. I thought maybe Sean Lennon's work here might be a great gateway for me. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've been listening to this record all day today. I just wanted to saturate myself with it. And let me start off by saying I really do like the record. I really do. So there's the mystery there. If you were worried I was going to say, oh, this thing is horrible, it absolutely is not. In fact, I really do like it, and some parts of it I absolutely love. So I just wanted to do this as somebody completely not qualified to talk about such things. I kind of wanted to approach this because I bet there are others out there like me, like, you know what, this is a little beyond what I'm usually listening to, what I usually enjoy. And I just want to reassure people this really is an interesting listen. You have to listen a little differently than you do with your old Beatle records, but it is still very interesting. I want to go through this record and just kind of give you an impression. It's very tough for me to talk about music, even power pop or Beatles music, just because language and music to me are almost mutually exclusive. The reason music exists seems to be because you can't express everything through language. So there's certain words that everybody uses when they talk about this. And I've noticed it. I've been reading up on it. I've watched videos on it. The one thing that people all say is it combines jazz, progressive rock, electronica, that kind of thing. It's trippy. It's experimental, but none of that really gives you the sound of what you're hearing. I'm going to link to the Asterisms piece in the description below. And if I think about it, I'll link to Larry Graves and Norman Masloff's review. They're talking about this album, just so you can get something maybe a little more cohesive there. But it's tough to talk about music anyway, and this is the best description I've seen of it. I was reading the February Rolling Stones article about it, the interview with Sean Lennon, and I think it was them that described it as genre-less. It really is hard to give something like this a genre. I think of it, there's obviously jazz in there, electronic stuff. Sean Lennon's guitar in here is really good. Some of the heavier parts of this record are when Sean comes in with that guitar. He does a really good job. I was going to read some stuff here. He reluctantly took on the guitar part, but he did a fabulous job. His parts are really probably my favorite parts, but he assembled a great set of musicians. I like stuff that becomes noisy, stuff that is kind of distorted and strange. This has a lot of that in here. The one song Asterisms, right away, I knew I was out of my league, because I'm like, asterisms, I bet that's just a word he made up. Oh, it's a real word. I looked it up. It's a grouping of stars in the skies that make a shape, but smaller than a constellation. He talked in his interview with Rolling Stone that, he was brought up in the religion of astrology. John and Yoko were both heavy into that as he was growing up, and he had a rebellion towards it. And then kind of has a bittersweet memories of it. And then he had so many problems getting this album out that he got COVID while making it. There are just several things where he felt the stars themselves were against him. But this all turned out really well. I like in the notes here, he has some interesting things. That's Sean there. He has some things. Let me show you this label before I forget. I'm trying to get better. This is about 37 minutes long. It's just about right for me for what it is. It's something I can listen to over and over again, and I'm not overwhelmed with it. I wanted to read this. There's just some interesting things on here. He's talking about when he first visited Knitting Factory and he saw John Zorn play. He writes, I gravitated towards the weird stuff. The Knitting Factory scene was wild. You can see people playing sewing machines and blowing horns into bowls of water at impromptu AM sessions with musicians who later went on to be the most famous players of their generation. He goes on, it was a real scene. Being the son of John and Yoko, experimental music was in my blood. He says, the only problem was I didn't play very well, but as a fan, I knew I had found my tribe. He plays incredibly well. I wanted to do this as impromptu as possible. What I've been telling myself is I like to fancy myself a writer. And when I got into writing, one of the things I really got into were how the Beats approached writing, stream of consciousness, sort of like from the school of James Joyce. William Burroughs' cut up method of writing, just this very bizarre kind of experimental writing. I found it to be very fascinating and very interesting. Well, to me, this is what kind of is happening here. It seems very organic. It comes up, it evolves into different sounds. I only wrote a few notes here. If I were to pick, I think there's only five pieces on here. Star Water, Thinking of M, Acidalia, and then side 2 is Asterisms, and Heliopause ends the record. But to me, he picked the right title for the album. Asterisms is my favorite on here, if I were to pick a favorite. And this is just listening to it. I've listened to it a few times before today, but today I really listened to it several times and really let it soak in. This Asterisms is by far the most, I shouldn't say by far, but is the most interesting to me. It has this low, slow build up to an electronic cacophony of noises. I love how that works out, but it sounds good. It's not total chaos. And then Sean Lennon's guitar is just so heavy on there. I just love the way it sounds and how it comes in and just really changes the tone very naturally. Just a great sounding piece of music. The other thing I could probably talk about regarding this album is just the way it makes me feel. Of course, each song is its own journey, and truly a journey. Each song is a journey, or as I used to say back in my more psychedelic days, this song is its own trip. These songs are their own trip. Each one has their own trip. There is a general feeling of pensiveness, though, of reflection involved here. When I've read about Sean, he was talking about, taking care of his mother who's aging during the time of COVID and just being real careful with her, and just the world had been turned upside down with the COVID stuff, so there was a lot of stuff going on. You can kind of feel this through the album. Of course, there's no lyrics here. You definitely get a pensive kind of self-reflective feeling. I think it was Larry Graves that he said that he felt it was an overall soothing feeling. I don't know if I would say soothing. When I think of soothing, I almost think of Muzak-y stuff. This is definitely not Muzak-y stuff. This is more, there's an intellectual involvement involved with this that I find interesting. Anyway, I wanted to give this a shot because it's new for me, and I want to, just like Sean has gone out and really went out of his comfort zone with this. If you read about how he ended up playing lead guitar on this and stuff, you'll see that he really went out of his comfort zone to work on this album. And strangely enough for me, it's that guitar work that really draws me in. But of course, all these musicians are top-notch musicians. But I wanted to read this thing at the end of these notes that Sean wrote. As a young John Zorn fanboy at the Knitting Factory, I never imagined I'd be putting a record out on Zazdik. Someone tell my ma I made it. So Sean Lennon has absolutely come into his own with this record. It made me go back and start looking through some of his other works with the Claypool Lennon Delirium, which seems like something else I may like by Sean Lennon. And I might get some of those records too. But he's obviously come into his own, so much different than what his parents were doing, but yet still interesting and pushing boundaries. So I very, very much respect the man for this album and the path he's taking. I respect anybody who takes on this kind of music and this kind of project. So I hope this wasn't totally useless for you, but I wanted to take this on. I feel that this is a good gateway album for me, and I'm hoping that it's going to take me down a path even further into jazz fusion, prog, whatever you want to call this stuff. It's amazing. So thanks for sitting through this. This thing, it will be edited to hell because there's been so many spots in this video where I've just stuttered upon myself, or I've just was totally lost for words. So if there's a lot of editing here, please forgive me, but you should thank me. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all again very soon.